Right now, someone you've probably never heard of controls enough Bitcoin to buy a small country. And they're not the only one. While everyone obsesses over Satoshi Nakamoto's estimated 1 million Bitcoin fortune, there's an entire shadow economy of crypto whales lurking beneath the surface. Today, we're diving deep into the wallets of Bitcoin's biggest holders, and some of these revelations might just shock you. But before we get into the rankings, let me ask you this. Do you know who could single-handedly crash the Bitcoin market tomorrow if they wanted to? Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly who holds the power in the Bitcoin world. Some of these whales have been operating in complete silence for over a decade. Their wallets contain more wealth than most people will see in 1,000 lifetimes, yet they've never made a single public appearance. They're the ghosts of the blockchain, and today, we're going to expose them. Before we reveal who the biggest Bitcoin holders are, we need to understand something crucial. Bitcoin's distribution is incredibly unequal. According to blockchain analysis, roughly 2% of accounts control about 95% of all Bitcoin. That's more concentrated than almost any traditional asset class. But here's where it gets tricky. When we talk about who holds the most Bitcoin, we're dealing with three distinct categories: individuals, companies, and governments. And the largest wallets aren't always what they seem. Many of the biggest Bitcoin addresses belong to cryptocurrency exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, and Kraken. These wallets hold Bitcoin on behalf of millions of users, so while the wallet might contain hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, it's not controlled by a single person. It's more like a bank vault. Then you have cold wallets, ultra-secure storage solutions where companies and individuals keep their Bitcoin offline, away from hackers. Some whales split their holdings across dozens or even hundreds of wallets to maintain privacy and security. There's also the problem of lost Bitcoin. Researchers estimate that approximately 3 to 4 million Bitcoin, nearly 20% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist, are lost forever. There's a famous story of a British man who accidentally threw away a hard drive containing 8,000 Bitcoin, now worth over $500 million. So, when we're tracking down Bitcoin's biggest holders, we're essentially playing detective, piecing together blockchain evidence, public announcements, and educated guesses based on wallet behavior. Let's start with the obvious suspects, the cryptocurrency exchanges. Binance is the undisputed heavyweight champion. As the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, Binance controls roughly 600,000 to 650,000 Bitcoin across various wallets. That's around 3% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist, worth over $40 billion. That's more than the GDP of countries like Jordan or Bolivia. Binance's founder, Changpeng Zhao, known as CZ, built this empire from nothing. The exchange processes billions of dollars in trades every single day, and all that Bitcoin has to sit somewhere. Coinbase comes in second, holding approximately 400,000 to 450,000 Bitcoin. As the largest US-based exchange and a publicly traded company, Coinbase is surprisingly transparent about their holdings. They've positioned themselves as the safe option for investors, fully compliant with regulations and maintaining insurance on their digital assets. When major institutions like Fidelity or BlackRock want to custody Bitcoin, they often turn to Coinbase. Bitfinex rounds out the top three with an estimated 350,000 Bitcoin. Despite their controversial history, including the 2016 hack where they lost 120,000 Bitcoin, they've remained one of the largest custodians. But here's the scary part. If you keep your Bitcoin on an exchange, you don't actually own it in the truest sense. Remember, not your keys, not your coins. When FTX collapsed in 2022, customers had billions trapped. This is why hardcore Bitcoin believers preach self-custody. Though for the average person, the risk of losing private keys often outweighs the exchange risk. Now we get to the really interesting part, the companies that have bet their treasuries on Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, led by Bitcoin evangelist Michael Saylor, has gone absolutely all in. As of late 2024, they hold approximately 252,000 Bitcoin, making them the largest publicly traded corporate holder in the world. We're talking about over $16 billion worth. Saylor became convinced that holding cash was a guaranteed way to lose wealth. So, in August 2020, MicroStrategy announced they were buying $250 million worth of Bitcoin. Wall Street thought he was crazy. But Saylor didn't stop. He's borrowed money through convertible bonds, issued stock, and used every financial instrument imaginable to buy more Bitcoin. He's literally betting the entire company on Bitcoin's success. In earnings calls, he barely mentions MicroStrategy's actual software business. He just talks about Bitcoin. Saylor has called Bitcoin digital property and the best store of value humanity has ever created. And his strategy has mostly worked. MicroStrategy's stock has become a leveraged bet on Bitcoin. When Bitcoin goes up, their stock goes up even more. But Saylor has never sold a single Bitcoin. He's HODLing all the way. Tesla caused shockwaves in February 2021 when they announced they'd purchased $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. The price jumped over 10% in a single day. They currently hold around 11,500 Bitcoin, though they sold about 75% of their holdings in 2022 during supply chain challenges. Musk's relationship with Bitcoin has been complicated. He's tweeted it to new highs, criticized its energy consumption, accepted it for Tesla purchases, then stopped. He's single-handedly moved markets with tweets. Marathon Digital and Riot Platforms represent a different strategy. These Bitcoin mining companies practice HODLing onto the Bitcoin they mine rather than selling immediately. Marathon holds approximately 17,000 Bitcoin, while Riot has around 8,000. They're betting long-term that Bitcoin's value will continue to rise. Other notable holders include Block, formerly Square, founded by Jack Dorsey, with about 8,000 Bitcoin. Dorsey is another Bitcoin maximalist who believes Bitcoin will become the internet's native currency. What's fascinating is that these corporate holders are publicly accountable. They report their holdings to shareholders and regulators, giving us a clear window into institutional adoption. Here's something that might surprise you. Some of the biggest Bitcoin holders are governments. Yes, the same governments that many crypto enthusiasts wanted to escape from are now sitting on massive Bitcoin reserves. The United States government is one of the largest government holders, with approximately 207,000 Bitcoin, worth over $13 billion. How did they get it? Seizures from criminal operations. The most famous case is Silk Road, a dark web marketplace shut down in 2013. When the FBI seized Silk Road servers, they found approximately 174,000 Bitcoin, worth around $34 million at the time. Today, that would be worth over $11 billion. This single bust made the US government one of the largest Bitcoin holders overnight. But it gets crazier. In 2022, authorities seized another 94,000 Bitcoin from the 2016 Bitfinex hack, worth $3.6 billion. The Bitcoin was allegedly stolen by a couple, Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan. Heather had a side career as a rapper called Razzle Khan. Her music videos are something you have to see to believe. Meanwhile, they were sitting on billions in stolen Bitcoin. They spent years trying to launder it through mixing services and shell companies, but only managed to launder about 25% before getting caught. What does the US government do with seized Bitcoin? They auction it off through the US Marshals Service. This is how venture capitalist Tim Draper acquired 30,000 Bitcoin in 2014, buying directly from the government. But they don't sell everything at once, they still maintain a substantial treasury. China has also seized significant Bitcoin through crackdowns on crypto activity. Estimates suggest they could hold anywhere from 40,000 to 190,000 Bitcoin, including from the massive Plus token Ponzi scheme that defrauded investors of over $2 billion. Other countries have accumulated Bitcoin through seizures too. Germany seized around 50,000 Bitcoin from a piracy website. Bulgaria reportedly seized over 200,000 Bitcoin in 2017, though it's unclear what happened to those coins. The trend is clear. Governments worldwide are becoming inadvertent Bitcoin whales through law enforcement. Now the most intriguing category: individual whales whose identities remain unknown or only partially known. There are several Bitcoin addresses holding between 50,000 and 100,000 Bitcoin, billions of dollars worth, and we have no idea who owns them. These people could be walking among us, and we'd never know. The Winklevoss twins, Cameron and Tyler, are estimated to own around 70,000 Bitcoin collectively. Most people know them from The Social Network as the Harvard rowers who claimed Zuckerberg stole their Facebook idea. But here's what the movie doesn't show. They became Bitcoin billionaires. They bought Bitcoin around 2012 to 2013 when it was trading below $10. They tried to buy so much they couldn't find enough supply on one exchange. They had to spread purchases worldwide. They've also founded Gemini, a major cryptocurrency exchange. After losing the Facebook battle, they won the Bitcoin battle spectacularly. At Bitcoin's peak, they were worth over $4 billion each. Tim Draper purchased approximately 30,000 Bitcoin at a government auction in 2014, paying around $19 million, about $632 per Bitcoin. Today, those are worth nearly $2 billion. That's a 100x return. Draper has never wavered in his conviction. He's famously predicted Bitcoin will reach $250,000 per coin. He's been wrong on timing, but hasn't backed down, insisting it will happen eventually. Barry Silbert, founder of digital currency group and Grayscale Investments, is believed to personally hold significant Bitcoin, though exact figures aren't public. His company Grayscale manages the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which at its peak held over 650,000 Bitcoin on behalf of investors. But the truly massive individual holders probably don't want us to know who they are. If everyone knew you held $3 billion in Bitcoin, you'd become a target for hackers, kidnappers, and scammers. Many whales maintain extreme anonymity, using privacy coins, splitting holdings across hundreds of wallets, and never telling anyone. There are stories of Bitcoin whales targeted with sophisticated hacking attempts, SIM swapping attacks, and even physical threats. Some speculate about Bitcoin's missing billionaires, early adopters who mined Bitcoin in 2009 to 2011 and have remained completely silent. These people could be sitting on hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin worth billions, and we'd never know unless they moved their funds. There's a phenomenon called zombie coins, Bitcoin that hasn't moved in over 10 years. Some are lost forever, but others might belong to incredibly patient holders just waiting. Imagine having billions in Bitcoin and never touching it. That's next-level conviction, or a lost password. Of course, we can't ignore Satoshi Nakamoto. Bitcoin's mysterious creator is estimated to hold approximately 1 million Bitcoin, over $65 billion at current prices, which would make Satoshi one of the top 20 richest people on Earth. The fascinating thing? Satoshi's Bitcoin hasn't moved since 2010. These coins sit in dormant wallets untouched for over 14 years. If Satoshi moved even 50 Bitcoin, it would make global news. A significant movement would send shockwaves through the entire market. There are countless theories about who Satoshi is. Hal Finney, Nick Szabo, Craig Wright, or maybe a group of cryptographers. But here's what's beautiful. Satoshi disappeared intentionally. They created Bitcoin, set it free, and vanished without seeking fame or fortune. By remaining anonymous, Satoshi ensured Bitcoin wouldn't have a central leader that could be targeted. But for this video, we're focusing on everyone else, because Satoshi's holdings are in a category of their own. So there you have it, the titans of the Bitcoin world. From exchanges holding billions on behalf of users, to corporate treasuries betting everything on digital gold, to governments sitting on seized crypto fortunes, to mysterious individual whales hidden in the shadows. The distribution of Bitcoin shows us that while the technology is decentralized, the ownership definitely isn't. A relatively small number of entities control a massive portion of all Bitcoin, which means they also hold significant influence over its price and future. What do you think? Are you worried about Bitcoin's concentration in the hands of a few? Or is this just natural evolution, where early adopters always end up with the largest positions? And here's the real question. If you had bought Bitcoin at $1, would you have held it to $60,000? Or sold at $100? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down everything crypto. Thanks for watching.